Twitter. You might have come across this word a lot recently. If you don't have a Twitter account, chances are that you are living a great life. Well, jokes apart, Twitter is an American microblogging and social networking service on which users post and interact with messages. It is one of the giant social media platforms which impacts our lives just like Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat. Let's go through the history of this giant social media platform. Twitter emerged from the podcasting venture Audio, which was founded in 2004 by Evan Williams, Biz Stone, and Noah Glass. In 2005, Apple announced that it would add podcasts to its digital media application, iTunes, and Audio's leadership felt that the company could not compete with Apple and a new direction was needed to take the company further. So Audio started asking their employees if they had any interesting idea or any side projects that could be worked upon. And an engineer called Jack Dorsey gave a really interesting idea. Jack Dorsey proposed a small messaging service on which one could send small blog-like updates with friends. And Glass proposed the name Twitter, which is spelled TWTTR. The complete version of Twitter debuted in July 2006. Seeing a future of the product in October 2006, Williams, Stone, and Dorsey bought out Audio and started the obvious corporation to further develop it. Public interest on this platform sharply increased when it was presented in the Southwest Music and Technology Conference in Austin, Texas in March 2007. The following month, Twitter Incorporation was created as a corporate entity. Thanks to the infusion of venture capitalist, Dorsey became the first CEO of Twitter. In 2008, William ousted Dorsey as a CEO, and 2 years later, William was replaced as a CEO by the Chief Operating Officer, Dick Costolo. Twitter was primarily a free SMS service with social networking element. As such, it lacked a clear stream of revenue that one could find on sites that derived income from banner advertising or membership fees. With the number of unique visitors increasing to 1,300% in 2009, it was obvious that Twitter was more than a niche curiosity. However, in the same year, the giant Facebook turned into profitability only for the first time, which made it clear that Twitter could not achieve financial independence from its venture capital investors. What follows next? That in April 2010, Twitter unveiled advertisements that would appear in search results as its intent primary source of revenue. Later that year, Twitter also announced promoted trends, which placed promoted content in among other trends, and promoted accounts, which placed promoted accounts in the list of suggested accounts users may like to follow. Twitter's social networking roots were very obvious in April 2009 when actor Ashton Kutcher emerged as the victor in a race with CNN to become the first Twitterer to collect more than 1 million followers. While the celebrities' e-watching remained a significant draw to the service, businesses soon began sending tweets about promotions and events, and political campaigns discovered the value of Twitter as a communication tool. In the 2008 elections of USA, Barack Obama dominated his opponent John McCain in the social media sphere. Obama had almost 4 times as many MySpace friends and 20 times as many Twitter followers, and this development virtually ensured that future candidates would include a social networking presence as a part of their social media strategy. Perhaps the most noteworthy step in the evolution of Twitter, though, was its increased use as a tool for journalists. Twitter transformed into an up-to-date news source that surpassed political borders. On January 15, 2009, a tweet by Janice Crumbs broke the story of a successful water landing of a US Airways flight on the Hudson River in New York City. A blurry photo of the half-submerged aircraft was uploaded on twitpic.com, a photo hosting service for Twitter users. The site crashed because thousands of users attempted to view the photo at once. And this was just the beginning for Twitter. The earthquake that struck in Haiti in January 2010, Twitter reaffirmed its role as a powerful tool for the dissemination of information. Additionally, it became an effective fundraising platform when the Red Cross launched a mobile giving campaign that surpassed all expectations. High-profile users tweeted about the drive to help victims of the earthquake, and many of the followers tweeted and retweeted the message, helping the Red Cross to raise more than $8 million within 48 hours of the earthquake. Seeing the growth of the company, Twitter filed to become a public company. It announced the news to the public in a tweet. Its initial public offering, that is IPO, in November raised $1.8 billion, giving the market valuation of $31 billion. In 2015, Jack Dorsey, the mastermind of Twitter, returned as a CEO. Twitter had continued to grow its popularity, but it still had not become profitable, so it added 2 other features in an effort to increase user interaction. October 2015, Twitter added a new feature called Moments, which allowed the users and the service itself to create and curate thematic collections of tweets and other content. Moments were displayed prominently in their own tab in the app, but in January 2017, Twitter replaced Moments with Explore, in which trending subjects, including moments, were collected. The character limit of tweet was increased from 140 to 280 in 2017. Fleets added in November 2020 were a collection of tweets and other content that were designed to vanish within 24 hours, much like stories on Instagram and Snapchat. However, fleets failed to catch the attention of users and this feature was discontinued in August 2021. In May 2021, Twitter introduced Spaces, in which accounts with more than 600 followers could host a live audio conversation. But the most radical change occurred in March 2016 when Twitter replaced its chronological timeline with an algorithmic timeline, in which tweets that were more popular on the service or even tweets that were liked by the people a user followed would appear first. Twitter claimed that this change made users interact with others and even tweet more, but some criticized it as creating an experience that would produce an information bubble, confirming that the users in their existing bias. Twitter finally became profitable in the last quarter of 2017 when it had 330 million monthly active users. This was a gist of the history of Twitter and how it became a giant social media platform. And now let's talk about the innovation brought by Twitter. As Twitter's user base started growing, a funny thing started to happen. Users created a jargon and a different way to use the service. Think of it as an innovation born of necessity. Initially, users had no way of replying to one another on Twitter. Some users would use an @ symbol before the username to identify another user within a tweet. And this became such a prevalent way to acknowledge another user that Twitter team added the functionality natively to the Twitter platform. The same thing happened with hashtags, which are now an integral part of the Twitter ecosystem. The user-driven functionality is also the source of retweets. Users wanted a way to repost a message from a Twitter user while including credit to the user who originally tweeted it. Users started to add the RT before sending the message, signalizing that the following tweet was a report. In August 2010, this functionality was officially added to the platform. If you look very closely, this is a very important and prominent business lesson that all of us should learn. Be it Twitter or any other giant social media platform or any other giant company, for instance, they always listen to their consumers and acknowledge what their consumers need and work on that. Here the consumers needed a following way to report, a following way to mention someone on a tweet, and Twitter added the following features. And if you listen to the customer, you can become a giant leader in your industry. So let's talk about some latest news. Elon Musk, officially the richest person on the planet, is now the 100% stakeholder of Twitter. The valuation offered by Musk was a whopping $44 billion at $54.20 per share. Musk talking about unlocking Twitter's true potential, which we can only do if Twitter is private and under his control. Some other things which Elon Musk was talking about was freedom of speech, the edit button, and lesser bots and bloatware on Twitter. We'll have a look on what happens to Twitter on the next episode of Unpixelated. Thank you for being with me. This is Deepak. Thank you so much again. Bye bye. See ya.